take 15. Ria vea un cristallo, ria vea un cristallo, ria vea un cristallo, ria vea, be with me. Here we are again. A couple hours ago, I set out in the garden, writing an outline about what I want to talk about. And I thought I had a lot to say about failure. But I'm sitting there and I have this sense that I'm not in the right place to talk about failure. Currently, I'm living on an island. It's gorgeous. I'm at a place in my life where mentally, emotionally, physically, I am ridiculously happy. Spiritually, as a being, not just as a shell, I've had questions for ever. And now I have answers. Answers that will probably carry me through the rest of this lifetime in a very happy state. I'm surrounded by people who love me, and I love them dearly. And I do like offering up something nice to look at, like something green in the background, happy cheapy, so that you're not just looking at me like... But it just did not feel like I'm doing justice to everything else that led up to this point. As a child, I spent most of my time in dark rooms, on dark streets, surrounded by very dark thoughts. And although we have this beautiful sense that we have the capacity to, not just out of sheer survival instinct, it's an inner strength, a genuine quality where we can take almost any situation, any memory, and after a while, once we are done with our grieving process, even the most inhumane circumstances can be reframed. And we do that quite often. We justify almost anything as hindsight. This is exactly how it was supposed to be. All the little puzzle pieces now all make sense in a beautiful big picture, and now I see that everything was exactly the way it was meant to be. Because it led me here. I would not be here without all the crap. Really? I would rather say that we really don't like the feeling of failure. And we are really looking for meaning, purpose. We would really like to make sense. So almost anything that happens to us is exactly the way it was supposed to be. When I was a child, I had this, still have it, this interesting simultaneous awareness, this parallel processing that I could go into the deepest, darkest, and somehow at the same time I have a version of me. It's not a different being, not a guide, not anybody. It's me. I have a version of me who knows with unquestionable, unshakable being that I am okay. I have always been okay, and I will always be okay. And it doesn't take away from the moment. It doesn't pull me out of the situation. It doesn't make me escape. And I did my fair share of escapism. But it just simply allows me to experience everything that I'm going through at its depth, and at the same time have the safety net of, even when it hurts, there isn't really anything that can do harm. For a very long time, I was in constant physical pain. It wasn't a physical condition. Emotions and thoughts translated as pain in my body. Constant low-level anxiety. It's like when an aircon goes off and all of a sudden you realize that, holy, up until now, it was noisy. It's that sudden drop of, whoa, I have been in so much pain. And when you're in it, it just somehow, I wanted to say it's normal, but no, I think that was my biggest problem, that I had this faint memory, this muscle memory of, this is not how the world should be. This, how we are doing it now, is not how people should treat each other. It's not how relationships work. This is not intimate. There's no true joy. There's no pleasure without pain for some weird, unknown reason. There's no life without fear. There's no living without suffering. And I had the memory, I had the understanding that it's not normal to live this way. I do remember a place where there's truly no intention to hurt. Because the beings can actually feel what everyone is feeling. When you would do harm to another being, you are feeling the cause of your actions, your impact. So you wouldn't hurt another being. And you wouldn't hurt yourself, because there was no other being who taught you to treat yourself with disrespect, to treat yourself with anything less than love. In those states, when someone happens to hurt everyone, instantly knows it. So the help, the healing is instant. There's just no sense of, we'll just have to suck it up because this is how life is. Because we feel fully capable of steering our body vehicle at all times, in all directions. So it doesn't hurt. No emotion, no thought, no physical bone or cell in your body can truly ever hurt. Because you can just talk to them. You can just communicate. And you can feel what everybody is feeling. Back then, I did not understand that this was the cause of my depression for 20-ish years. Back then, I thought that it's more of a case of, she said that, he did this. But no, it was really this yearning that if I know better, why don't I do better? If I remember this, if on some level this just rings true, am I the only one who remembers this? Because that's not how we are conducting ourselves right now. And it's not just within a small community, within a group of friends. No, it's on a global, planetary scale. There are places where there's just no need to hurt. It's a place that I like to call home. And when I looked around, I realized that there was truly no place like home on this planet. Now that led me to a bunch of escapism, all sorts, which led me to cliffs with 30 feet drops, thinking how easy it would be to just turn around and leap. But at the same time, I know that that is not a solution. That will not take me where I want to go. So I just felt stuck. I curled up on a couple of bathroom floors. This ain't no fancy studio. This is my bathroom. On this floor, I curled up, sobbing, pleading, begging, whimpering. Please, let me go home. I don't know what the textbook definition of failure is, but allow me to offer up an alternative definition from the just made it up dictionary of Mill. Failure is a situation that did not meet my expectations. Now, if I reverse engineer that, does it mean that if I change my expectations, I would never be able to fail? Does that mean that if I reach states of complete detachment from any outcome, then I will just exist in this beautiful Eckhart Tolle moment of the now. Yeah, I tried a few of those. I tried all sorts of spiritual and secular ways of getting to know what this is, what this means, understanding while I'm the puzzle piece, what the bigger picture might be, so that I don't have to reverse engineer and say that it was all meant to be. But I have a sense of agency, I have a sense of free will while I'm in the moment to be able to say that this is where my puzzle piece will fit at some point. I was looking for a couple of those processes to answer my millions of questions. A couple of years ago, I was sitting on a park bench reading a book. I did not want to have any human connection for years back then. And there was this guy sits next to me on the next bench with a dog, and it's autumn, so there are heaps of leaves, and he starts talking to me, because I'm the only one around, about the leaves. But he just keeps talking about bees and the dog. Dude, I'm reading here. And then he goes into this story of back in the 70s, 60s. He was in the British Army, and they had this secret mission where they went to Rhodesia. And because it was secret, they did not have any backup. It was just a handful of people dropped in the jungle. And he tells me this story after story of how he faced death, being this close to a panther, being surrounded by the Rhodesians, all not guns, whatever weapons they had pointed at them. And at some point he just says, we had a lieutenant, and he had a saying. He goes, boys, failure is not in our dictionary. We do not know how to spell it, and we do not know what it means. And he says, hindsight, that's exactly what kept us alive. We did not know what it means to fail. When I ask people about their traumatic experiences, their problems, their troubles, there's this script. It's not a script, but almost always the end game, the outcome, the last answer is the same. So I call it a script. That I ask a couple of questions. What happened? How did it go? How did you feel? And the very last question I ask is, you might not feel anger, you might not feel resentment, you might not feel that you're blaming anyone, but if you had to point to a person who's responsible for it, who you might be blaming for what happened, who would that be? And the answer is 99% of the times, me. I blame myself. I should have known better. Actually, I did know better. I just didn't do better. Not everybody says that, but it's something along those lines. And if it's truly us, if there's no universal standards of the golden meaning of this is what you're supposed to become. But it's really us who sets our expectations of who we are, who we should be, what we should achieve. And when we don't meet those expectations, it's really, in the truest sense, us who's failing ourselves. I've always had a problem with this reframing. That even though you have an expanded point of view, and from here, it really makes sense why things happened the way they happened. While you're in those situations, it really fucking hurts. So trying to say with the nicest, sweetest intentions that it really wasn't that bad, or that it was truly part of the plan to have that pain, to have that suffering. To me, it feels a bit like, well, if I want to be polite, then I would say putting a Band-Aid on festering wounds. But who wants to be polite? It's putting icing on turd. No, it wasn't the way it was supposed to be. It was the way it happened. And we just really want to find why. Because maybe it's just me. On some level, I do remember that this is not our only option. It wasn't the way it was supposed to be. I guess back then we just didn't know any better. If all of us at this point are setting ourselves up for failure, it will be because on some level, we really don't know any better. Remembering a place that I call home gave me a whole new set of standards. I really couldn't say it anymore that it makes sense to hurt. I really couldn't say that I deserve it. I truly couldn't say that to myself anymore, that I deserve to be punished, to feel pain. If we do ask ourselves very, very honestly, there is a version who says, yes, you're perfect, beautiful snowflake. But there's also a version who says that you fucktard. I've done my own fair share of dumb fuckery. There are things that I'm not proud of, that I wish I could take back, and things that, if we're objective about it, could deserve punishment, because I was punishing. If I get back exactly what I'm giving, if I give punishment, I do deserve it. But there's also a sense of, if there's truly a place where pain is not an option, then I really cannot say, I do not have the excuse to say that my actions are justified, that I'm taking revenge, that I'm sitting in dark rooms, not talking to anyone because whatever comes after because. Instead of reframing what happened, and I do genuinely hold the belief that we come here knowing the big picture. So we do see where each and every puzzle piece fits. And there is no judgment, there is no right or wrong, there's no morality. There is an infinite amount of options in an infinite space-time where you can get to experience whichever way you want, how scenic your route should be, that's the route. Not because it's the way it's supposed to be, but because the way it can be. The option is there. And there is no right or wrong answer. There is no judgment. So everything is the way it's supposed to be. It's just the way it is. But if there is an option, why do we keep choosing to fail? Why do we keep choosing to set our expectations without understanding the big picture? Trying to micromanage how we get to a place where it really doesn't matter how we get there, as long as we know where we want to go. Because we will get there. Almost doesn't matter how. But we do get there. Funniest thing, I know that my home exists. And by now, I'm not saying it's going to be the easiest, it is going to be a lifetime practice, but by now, I do know the way home. So what if we stop trying to reframe our failures? What if we just say that failure does not exist in our dictionary?